This is our Tactical Thursday, and I'm excited because we spend this time discussing different problems that we run into or brick walls. And this was especially different tonight because we have a member, Deja, who has Chinese heritage. And in researching, she's run into some blocks. And I met a lady named Emmy Dunn, who is a member of the Chinese Historical Society here in Memphis. She's a historian and an author. And we serve on the Shelby County Historical Commission together as well. And in sharing with her different talks about our ethnicities and things, it occurred to me that in our Tactical Thursday, this would be a great opportunity to find out something more. And this is uh, Asian American Pacific Islander Month. And I thought that'd be a perfect blend that we too celebrate and salute to our Asian American and Pacific Islander friends, that we salute you as well. And so tonight, we're going to kind of just open it up a little bit with, I want to discussion. So everybody kind of jump in. I don't expect you to stay locked behind your mics, what you're thinking. But first, I want Deja, if you will tell what little part that you do know about and tell us what exactly your ancestors' relationship is to you.
Okay, yeah, my third great grandfather, John Henry, was Chinese. Um, don't know much about him except that he lived at the time of the 1880 and 1900 censuses. He was living in Reserve, Louisiana, which is close to New Orleans. Um, and he was born 1849, and it said that he'd come to the States in 1869. Um, and I think that's all I have on him. His name was John Henry. I don't know what his name was prior to coming to the United States.
Did you have any stories or anything that anybody passed on? Any stories about him or
Oh, yeah, his son, which is my second great grandfather, his name was Willie Henry, or as my dad and people would call him Papa Willie. And Papa Willie lived into the 1980s. So my dad and grandmother and everybody who was around got to know him pretty well. But they would always say that Papa Willie's dad was Chinese, or they would just say Papa Willie's one of his parents is Chinese, and they would say that he ate a lot of rice and he went to there was like a Chinese owned cleaners laundry cleaners in New Orleans that they lived nearby, and they would say that he would go um and talk to the people, and they say that those were his relatives or something. But it was always pretty much just a rumor, or not. I mean, it wasn't just a rumor, but it was always pretty much talked about, but not like substantiated. And so the way that we found this out and like confirmed it was my dad and I started researching our ancestry, and we found Papa Willie on the census in 1900 or 1910 with his parents, and the father was indeed Chinese. His name was, and he was on the census listed as Chinese. So
okay? I think Nona was asking the question, how did you find this ancestor? And then I think you just explained it that
yeah, yeah, I saw the question pop up while I was talking. So
What I wanted to know, did you do your DNA and also verify?
Mhm. Yes. So I, being his third great grandchild, have very little Chinese DNA, but my dad and my grandmother also took it, and my grandmother has about 12% on Ancestry.
okay. Well, good. So now that's our premise what we start with tonight, so that we're trying. I looked at some things, and I think Deja's been searching. So Emmy, with her researching, I just thought she could bring to us a clearer picture as to how the immigration occurred and where they migrated from coming into that area, possibly.
Oh, yeah. So at that time, 1840s, when they came over for the gold rush, the dominant province in China was Canton, which is now called Guangdong. So there is two particular areas. One is called the Four Counties area, and the other one is Three Counties. And those two counties sent the most Chinese to China. The problem with doing Ancestry.com is, unfortunately, your third great grandfather used an American name.
Mhm.
We really need the Chinese name. Otherwise, I think it'd be almost impossible to go back further than what you have already done. Unless you can find something in some documents that gives a clue as to what his name was. Yeah,
Yeah,
just
that's what we've
difficult.
kind of been hung up on. The only clue that we had was that people were like, "Oh, we think his last name was Wong," but like still a very common name. And on the ancestry test, when it like starts to narrow down by region and stuff, it did say like the Guangdong province there. But yeah, the only thing that we heard as far as his name was just it may have been Wong. And we have some like Chinese ancestry matches on Ancestry DNA, and the closest one is a Wong, but still don't really know where to go from there.
So have you checked all the censuses that, well, he said he came 1880 census. Have you tried 1870?
Yeah, I haven't found him though.
Well, if you look for the name Wong instead of Henry, see if any of those match up.
Okay.
And question, I'm wondering, with the Asian matches that you had, were any of them with your father, for instance? Do you have any? What was the highest centimorgan? Was yours was 12? Was his higher?
I don't know. I can check right quick.
Okay, I'm just and then did you actually find people who matched you with Asian heritage, but they had a lot more themselves? That's what I'm wondering about.
Yeah, I did
Okay.
find those types of matches. Let's see. So I'm not sure if this is the high, or I don't know how to find like which ones are the highest without just scrolling all the way through. But I just searched in my grandma's DNA matches of people with China as the birthplace in their trees. And the highest centimorgan is like 22.
That 22 person, they had 22%.
No,
So
22 centimorgan
I mean,
shared.
20 centimorgan. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
centimorgan. I'm just trying to figure out. I'm not trying to take over from Emmy historically, but I'm just saying. So you looked at that 22%, and did you match that person with maybe with yourself? Did you try to do a like share like you do? I mean, who your shared matches were with you? That person with the 22. Who those shared matches would be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a shared match.
Your shared match, your father's shared match. You know, all of
And my
y'all.
grandma. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what about the other people? Were there any other people that were from that area, Louisiana area, or and have you tried just putting in China as location?
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
Okay, yeah, okay, good. I'm just supposing everybody gonna fill in.
Hmm. The other thing that I wonder about, like some of these matches that I have, the Asian matches, are like their families are in like the San Francisco area, which I know is like a common point of entry. Um, I'm wondering if there's, I guess, just the more popular routes of coming to the States. Like, did most people go to California, or were there other ways that they?
No, so the major point of entry would be the West Coast. So that would be either Seattle, Washington, or California. So in the early days, if he came in the 1860s, 1870s, more than likely he came through San Francisco.
Hmm.
Those early passenger manifests are not very detailed. And the other problem is that if he was using a Chinese name, of course he was, there could be several men with the same name, and that is a problem because you have no way of identifying which one is your third great grandfather.
Hmm.
Um, but at least that gives you a start. The other thing I was thinking about, have you searched old newspapers or Chronicling America, uh,
Hmm.
just to put in a name and see what comes up, or search the Chinese community in New Orleans and see what names show up. You're
Yeah, I've searched a couple of different things. One of the things I found was like a lot of the articles will refer to them as like John Chinaman, which
Yeah,
don't.
yeah, that's a general term. Yeah. Yeah, there may be stories where they will actually use their names, but I mean uh that's a long shot uh to go that way. Uh, uh it, yeah, the whole thing just hinges on the name, unfortunately. It's very hard to get beyond this English American name that he's using.
Hmm.
Uh,
It's like he picked the most common one.
yeah, yeah, that too. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you look at that Afu, that John Henry, that Afu that I showed you at Family Search? That
Hmm.
died in 19, what was it, like 1900, like at the December of 1900, I believe it was.
Yeah. I looked at him, I didn't find anything connecting.
Yeah, so the thing I found interesting about that was that he in the 1900 census, I'm thinking, was that the one that you actually saw him in the household and everything? Was that the 1900?
Hmm.
Okay, and then at the end of the year, this person died, and we know that in 1910, your grandmother was already remarried.
Yeah.
So you kind of have a basic idea. I just still kind of wonder about that person because he was born in 1849, came from China, and then they had John Henry, but they put that it was either it was AKAH.
Hmm. Yeah, it
Uh,
was tough food. Yeah, I
and
think maybe I
and I
could
and the
look up.
age is 51 in the census, and it said 61. You know, if somebody's relating 51, 61, it could be off. So I'm still kind of leaning that could possibly look at him. And in 1870, I saw John Henry, Joseph Henry, and someone else. But there were several right there in that area. But they were in the cane fields and all of that. You know, somebody was a barber. I kind of followed some of them around. So I was just wondering. I even looked at the immigration through the port of New Orleans. You know, looking for someone that may have come in 1869, but that didn't get me anywhere. But Emmy, when they came from their country, and came into America from whatever port they came to, how did they find? So did they? How did they find out where to go to? Would make them leave the West Coast and come to New Orleans? What was driving the movement of the Asians at that point?
Yeah, got it. So when they started coming east and south, they probably already knew someone here or they had a relative. So it's just by word of mouth that they would come to this area.
Okay, okay. And
Okay,
so they,
sorry, because I had this thought. One in New Orleans, the Presbyterian Church was very I don't know how to say, they supported the Chinese community a lot. You may find some records at the Presbyterian Church,
Yeah,
possibly.
there's a collection of the Chinese Presbyterian Church there that I've looked through it once at the Amistad Research Center, which is
Mhm,
at Tulane, but I need to go back and I didn't have that much time that time, so
mhm.
that is one thing that I could
Yeah,
look.
there's a person there. His name is Winston Ho, H-O. Uh, he does a lot of genealogy, and he may be able to help you. He's probably more familiar with the files down there than I am. Um,
so anybody else have anything that they with any thoughts or?
I wanted to know what parish he lived in.
He lived in St. John the Baptist Parish.
How many people during that time period lived in that parish?
I don't know.
The reason why I say that, you know, I'm not, I'm somewhat familiar with the Louisiana genealogy, but a lot of times when you look at the actual number of people that lived there, now this was prior to the Civil War. So did you find any death certificates of any of his children?
Well, it was after the Civil War. But no, I didn't find any death certificates of his children. I know, like my Papa Willie, his son died in 1983, so that's not available yet. You need I think it's like 50
No, I'm
years.
talking about the older death certificates.
I haven't found any.
Yeah, because if you can find, you said this is your third great grandfather, then if he had some children, he had to because you're here, and and the first grandfather had some children, there should be some death certificates of some of these children, and it would
Right.
have names on them.
Yeah, he had four children on the census, but we haven't been, this is another strange thing about it. We haven't been able to find the other three children on any other censuses. As one of them lived with the brother in the next census, but after that, there's no, I haven't been able to find them. On the census or on a death certificate or anything. But there was one, my Papa Willie, which is his son, had a nephew that they knew he had a nephew. And I found the nephew's obituary, but the nephew had a different name. It was John Harris instead of John Henry.
Hmm.
Which one of his siblings was the parent of that nephew or anything like that.
Did you look at any school records?
No.
That would be another thing too. Look at the parish school records because they probably went to some school somewhere
Mm-hmm.
in that geographic area. You can find Louisiana school records.
Do you know
if
where I would look for those? Are those available through the parish or do I have to find the specific schools, do you know?
One of the places that you might look at is look on Family Search and look at the wiki. Because they do have a lot of records for the school records. Now, the other place, and I don't know if you can get this, where for school records, another place that you could go is the Allen County Library in Indiana.
Mhm.
And I know you don't probably want to make that trip to Indiana, even though I've done it, but look on that website for Allen County Library. And they have, I know they have Mississippi school records that's not on Family Search. So,
Okay.
so that's because somebody went to school. And maybe you can, not necessarily him, but some of his descendants, piece it together in that way.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
There's a search you could do through the city directories. It's tedious, but you know the name, maybe you can find an address, or do you know, did he have a laundry business, or?
Well, no, I mean, I don't know of him having one, but there was a laundry business that my second great grandfather would go to, and they said that those people who owned it were relatives or something of his. So,
Mhm.
but that business is actually still around. Maybe I could go and I know the
Mm.
owners who owned it at the time have passed, but maybe their
Mhm.
children might know something.
Yeah, if you can find the name, you kind of have to work backwards. You find the name through this. You said your second great grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
If have you researched his name?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you didn't find any reference to the third great grandfather.
No,
So no.
just him on the census as a child. But I mean, he's he's still like I guess pretty recent answer. Like I can't get his death certificate because it hasn't 50 years haven't passed.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Allison wants to know, I think, what his profession was. Did you see that somewhere?
Yes, he was. I think he was uh we had him. Oh, he was a well on the census it says farm laborer, so likely working on the plantation. The sugar cane plantation is there.
So were your third great grandfather also worked on the farm?
Yeah, that's who I was referring to.
Oh, okay. Okay. So your second great grandfather, what did he do?
He also worked on the Gacho sugar plantation there, but
Oh,
uh he moved and as an adult he moved to New Orleans and his occupation there is listed as gardener.
hmm.
Emmy, I
Okay.
want to ask you a quick question. Did any of the Chinese participate in the Civil War?
Yes. Oh,
See, that would be he would have been in the age where he might have been in the war.
Well, it said he didn't come over until 1869, so
Yeah,
if
the
that's
war
true.
was over. Yeah.
Well, there was some wars after that now.
Mhm.
but
I
he
want to
dis
get some veteran records. I mean, you're looking, we're grasping at straws here, so let's look at that straw.
well, I think he disappeared after between 1900 and 1910 because in 1900 he's there. Then 1910, her great grandmother had remarried.
Mhm.
So we're it's only assumption, but I'm really honing in on that at one man that died that had that food whatever on it, and I just want to kind of go back and look at that again, as to what was going on there. But something you're saying there about the grandchildren, Mr. Willie's siblings that disappeared. Now that's definitely somewhere you follow. Like, where did they go? You know,
Right.
where they left Louisiana altogether?
I have no idea. I I could not find them at all. There's one brother who's also named John, and then there's two sisters, Georgiana and Louisa, and they are on they're all on the 1900 census, but I only have the 1910 for John, the son.
Yeah, I think I saw that. So when I go back and look again on it's at those siblings then, because that's really something to try to follow. And then you had that nephew with the Harris, so that's interesting to see.
Mhm.
That could have been one of the daughters married a Harris or something, you know.
It
When you
could, I mean, it could be his. I have his obituary, and it says his parents' names are John and Mary Harris. So it could, I don't know if Mary
John
is
Henry,
middle name or if John Henry changed to Harris.
probably,
But
because I've seen that before. For some reasons, I've seen another Henry that became a Harris for some reason. I don't know why, but that's happened. So
Mhm.
it looks like that there is a possibility with the things that Dr. Thomas is talking about,
Mhm.
and what Emmy has said, that maybe you might get some little tip here, and to like going back to that Presbyterian church thing. And what about any other? Is there a Chinese historical society down in New Orleans?
Uh,
Um, I don't think so. There may be a cultural society, but a historical society, I don't know. Um, the other thing, your third great grandfather married this grandmother that you spoke about. Is there a marriage certificate?
yeah,
Can you
I have their marriage certificate. But
okay.
it is I'm wondering if like that's the only record, the only marriage certificate, because it was on the census, it said they had been married for a number of years. I can't remember, but it was longer than this certificate. This marriage certificate that I have is from 1904.
Okay, and what did it say? Was that with Felice? Is it Felice? Felicia?
John and Felicie. But on the 1900 census, it said that they had been married for 14 years already, which is I don't know why there would be a certificate in 1904, but it 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 has two witnesses, one of them being their daughter Georgiana, who I could not find more on. And the other person is named Rhesus Tanner, but I haven't been able to find them either.
Ooh, what's that name again? Reese, how you spell it?
R-E is Rezis, and then the last name was Taner.
So
Hmm.
he didn't use his Chinese name on the marriage certificate.
No.
Mm.
And it was another avenue I had been trying to follow was uh many of my I've been able to get marriage certificates for a lot of or marriage certificates and marriage, birth, and death from like the Catholic Church, but on theirs there's a Baptist minister. So
Mm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What
So,
cemeteries were they buried in? Is there a family cemetery?
um I don't know about John, that ancestor, because I don't know when he died. But the some are buried in this cemetery called, I think it's called Providence in Reserve, Louisiana, where they lived, but some are including his wife, I think, is buried in New Orleans at Holt Cemetery, which was like a pauper's cemetery there.
Mhm. So, do you think your third great grandfather died here and buried?
I mean, I would think so. I would think it's in that window of 1900 to 1910 because that's the last record that I have of him, and then his wife is remarried by 1910.
Um, it's hard to say. A lot of the men returned to China, even though they were married here.
Mm.
So you cannot rule out that possibility that he returned to China. So your paper trail runs out.
Mm-hmm.
Marie put something in the chat. Marie has a lot of Louisiana family, historic New Orleans collection. What is that? Marie, what is that about?
The Historic New Orleans Collection is a museum and research facility. So I don't know if you've investigated that. I used to go there when I lived in New Orleans. So that is something that could be considered if you're looking at some of the history of the people who were there at different points in time. So I have a phone number and I'll put that in the chat.
Thank you.
But
Yeah.
if you Google it, it will come up, and they have a website as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm familiar with him. I don't think I've searched anything relating to this though. So
Okay.
Allison Barnes asked a question too. No, something else. Could your father or grandmother request the death certificate since they are descendants and family? Because I thought that they were supposed to. I know in Tennessee it's like that. A relative can get it. A closer relative can get it.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
But it seems like to me one of your keys is going to be to locate those other family members, try to tie them in.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime if you feel like you want to, I'd be happy to look at your DNA share thing and see if I can help you kind of triangulate it some so that we can come up with some good candidates to reach out to,
Mm-hmm.
especially since you have some you said that are on the West Coast that you don't know, we weren't aware of, that have the Asian derivative. So you definitely, that may be a track. So we're getting some good information out here today. So maybe and sometime down the road we'll find some other family member somewhere. I think Nona, Dr. Edwards again said, did he own any property? And
Not that I know of. On the census, it says that he was renting.
okay.
I have a question about the DNA. So the results, do they give you the names that you match with?
Yes, the name of the
Oh.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it depends on their settings, but yeah, I have the people who I've matched with, they have their full names on there.
So do you think it's a good idea to contact them to?
Yeah, I've reached out to this one guy, Benson Wong, who manages like a lot of tests that like match with me.
Oh, so he has tests that match you.
Yeah, he's the one on his family's on the West Coast. And he said that, I can't remember what he said, but I mean, it was no specifics, but just saying like, yeah, we could be related. I I match him and his uncle. And he said that his grandfather, Andrew Dungun Wong, his brother, and their brother all were born in the Guangdong province. I don't know how to pronounce this, but Hoiping, Hoiping.
Hoi Ping, which
And
is
his
very common. Yeah. So
mhm,
so that's like a district, and many Chinese came from that district.
mhm. And he said that he knows his grandfather spent a short time in New York and Louisiana before coming back to San Francisco to settle down. So
Hmm. So
possible that.
there, so yeah, so if he's, so there, that could be a promising if since he spent some time in Louisiana.
Mhm, mhm,
Uh, because their third great grandfather could have several brothers or
Mhm.
uh in the US at the same time.
mhm. I guess it would be helpful to look at this guy's grandfather.
Yeah, if
Have you
he
done
can go.
Have you done the surname search in your DNA matches? Put it over there where you have location, but you have a surname one too. That if
Mhm.
surname is in a person's tree, if Wong, put Wong under the surname search.
Yeah, that's how I found this guy.
And,
Cause
yeah, and see if anybody else comes up with Wong in their trees that's with the Asian match, you know.
mhm,
So maybe the Wong name could be something that you can follow. It sounds interesting, especially when you're saying that you match not just that one person, but some other people in his family. So, and his grandfather. Yeah. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's promising there. I like the idea of that. So I'm ready whenever you are. Look at it. I'm pretty good at trying to help with that kind of stuff. So what? I think Allison had something else in the chat too. That it's a link. Paula Madison address. Oh, okay. What is it about?
oh, okay, a Roots Tech presentation.
Okay.
Save that link.
Yeah, okay. And then I think Marie put in the chat the historic New Orleans
Mhm.
collection. So yeah, so we're getting that information. So when you get through, make sure you save that chat for me because I'm not good at I'm trying to do better at that. Okay. Anybody else have any other questions that or thoughts on this or anything you want to ask Emmy? Not that she knows it all, but you know, just because you know how people do. You don't want to say, "Oh, well, she's Asian, so she ought to know this." So, do you have some questions you want to ask her in particular? The floor is open, everybody. Use your opportunity.
I want to know, how would a person that is Chinese get to Louisiana when the money place was California?
Well, so let me just start at the beginning. When the Chinese first came in 1848 for the gold rush, they did not come as immigrants. They came as sojourners, which means that a temporary stay, because all they were interested in doing was to make money and go back to China. That's why they came along. They didn't bring their families, so they had no intention of staying in the United States. But because, excuse me, the, because of the minute they stepped into California, they started having anti-Chinese discrimination. And it lasted for a long time, which resulted in the 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act, which did not allow laborers to come in. So this 1882 Exclusion Act was not repealed until 1943. So no Chinese was allowed to apply for citizenship. They were not, it was very difficult. Only there were some exemptions. So if you were a merchant, you could come in if you were a diplomat or a student or a tourist. So those were the exemptions. But the rules, the laws against women were very strong. They didn't want the women to come in because they thought that the women would corrupt the men. They thought Chinese women were all prostitutes.
Oh,
So with all this anti-Chinese discrimination on the West Coast in the 1860s, 1870s, so the Chinese did not think about going east or going south. Yeah. So what happened was there was these two factories in New Jersey, whose workers went on strike. So the owners of the two factories wanted to hire Chinese from the West Coast and from China. And so they did. So they brought in Chinese to New Jersey, where it was in Belleville, which is the first Chinese settlement on the East Coast. So these Chinese came in as strike breakers, and they did finished their contract, but they stayed in the area and started opening their own businesses, their schools, and so on. So with the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad in 1869, there were a lot of Chinese unemployed, but railroad building continued in the South and in Texas, so Chinese were being employed in those areas. Also in 1869, we know that there were 98 Chinese men who were hired to work on plantations in the South. So that was mainly Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. But the Chinese were not interested in plantation work because their goal was to make money, and they were not going to be making money working for someone else. So they saw a way to start their own businesses. And one of the businesses that they started was laundry, hand laundry. And the reason they did that because you didn't need a large capital to start the business. You didn't have to hire a lot of people. So if you only have yourself and a partner, that was enough. Then you didn't need to rent a large space. But the most important thing was the Chinese did not want to be seen as competing against the whites. So that was a big problem. Even though I have not found any in Memphis or in Arkansas, there was no really overt violence against Chinese, but there was some in Iowa, I believe. There was still strong discrimination. So once the Chinese were settled in their businesses, they began to bring their families over, because having a business meant you were a merchant. So you were exempt from the 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act. So once you have a business, you started what they call a chain migration. You bring in your family, your nephews, and so on. And that's why a lot of the Chinese in the South are more or less related to each other. Because you have people coming from the same village back in China.
okay. Dr. Thomas, did that help?
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that. That was an interesting perspective that we don't usually know about.
Right.
Sharing that.
That's exactly why I'm glad to have Emmy here tonight, because we do run around thinking, oh, we have tunnel vision and we have stereotypical things about each other. The Asian with blacks with the Asian with the blacks, whatever. So I see Belinda saying, very interesting. Thank you so much. Yeah, there are things that we just don't know. You just presume. I see in the chat, Marie put something else in there. Deja, you see that? Asian Pacific American Society, New Orleans. And it's got it has an address for that. So all these little tidbits here will help somebody and to help somebody else, you know. And it's just really good to hear the history, to know the history. And then I remember reading something about an Asian group in Rhode Island. I was looking at that. I started out looking, it's a Chu family somewhere in Mississippi that had a nice thing on the internet. And I was reading about their family, and they had connected the dots somewhat with their Asian part. And I cannot find that anywhere anymore because I you know, if you don't get the right wording, you're just not going to find it. But they were in Mississippi, and I said, "Oh my goodness, where are they?" So while looking, I ran into so many other stories about. I used Black and Asian and African. I tried all kinds of derivatives, and I ended up with a story up in Rhode Island, which I was surprised about. Rhode Island, Asian people, some big mess that happened up there, and they were saying that a lot of the Asian men came in and they married women, Black women, but they weren't really married because they were married to somebody else over in China. And it was just a lot of interesting things. And before I was over, I was like, I'm always going down the rabbit hole in history. So I was there going, what? I can't believe all this stuff. So it's good for us to get to have Emmy here today and have the opportunity to find out the other side of the story, because I think when she spoke to Tinjin, she talked about the stores in Memphis, that her family had a store. And I was telling her that back in the day, the telephone operator, when I was a telephone operator, people would call and ask for this grocery, Sit and Chew on Decatur Street. And I said, oh, Sit and Chew, I almost knew the number. So I was always thinking that Sit and Chew meant just that they came in, they sat, they ate, and had a little something there. I thought, and when she mentioned the store, the family name, I went, oops. So all these years, I thought it was action, but it was actually the person's name. So those are the type things that sometimes we miss. Marie, you go ahead. Whatever you say, go ahead.
I was just going to say there were two very prominent people that, you know, we talk about looking at the fan club and collateral research. Sheriff Harry Lee, his family had a very large restaurant years ago in New Orleans, but he was the sheriff when Katrina hit, and he had been in politics in New Orleans for many years. He was also an attorney, or a lawyer. So that's a route you might want to research if you're looking in that area. If he was a lawyer, he would be registered somewhere with the state, with the bar. The other person, and because he's prominent, his family history and maybe some of his connections should be readily available to take a look at. Someone else should have done a little bit of research. The other person, who was African American, and I don't know as much about this, it's just that he used to talk about it, Rivas Ortigue, his grandfather was Chinese. So Rivas Ortigue was not only a judge, but civil rights person in the city. So because these are prominent people, their history and their connections may be better documented. So there may be a trail there, and just kind of having to make the connections. I mean, it's a little bit of what I call the Columbo work, meaning you're digging and investigating all of that, but looking at prominent people like we do with all of our other research and having to see if there are any connections might be a route to go. It's not a direct path, but it might be helpful.
Yeah, one of in the same vein of he ate a lot of rice. One of the things that people would also say is, oh, Harry Lee is his cousin. And so definitely will need to look more into that.
Oh, see,
I think my dad has looked into it, but yeah, I'll look up Harry Lee and see what else I can find on him. And how do you spell the second guy you mentioned, his last name?
Rhesus or whatever. What
I
did you
think
say?
Ortigue. I have to go back and look. Yes. Rivas is his first name. I know, not easy, right?
But
Uh,
he's
but he was a
reason.
judge or Orti. I guess it's Gue Ortigue,
Mhm.
and Rivas is his first name.
Okay, I hadn't heard of him. Okay.
Now
Thank-
that's interesting, especially since Deja had mentioned that the person on the marriage record was Rhesus,
Mhm.
R-E-Z-S. So, look, my eyebrows going way up. Let's check out on these people. That's interesting. I think you're getting some tidbits here.
Yeah,
That
yeah, this has been helpful.
very helpful. Well, good, very helpful. And Emmy has helped enlighten us on some things too, as far as the passage, because we do think of I guess and I did speaking to Dr. Thomas, I did read where there were Asian people in the war in the Civil War, and some distinguished, a couple of distinguished ones. So it is they've been here a long time and have a long history. It's just that we as don't really as any other group, we don't always share the history. We don't understand it. We just kind of like go with stereotypical thoughts about the history. So I'm glad that we have this forum tonight and that we have been helpful in getting some information that will maybe help Daisha to do some research and go further. Any other questions or any other thoughts on tonight? There it is, Daisha. You see it?
Ortigue Rivas.
Yeah. So we're getting close to the close. If I don't hear anybody else that has anything else, any more questions of Emmy, catch her while you can. So, all these silent people.
I was going to say one other thing. I think Harry Lee went to law school with the infamous Governor Edwin Edwards. Edwin Edwards' brother was also an attorney, if I'm not mistaken, and they would have been in law school. So again, part of the fan club and picking at straws, but you never know who's connected to whom, particularly in Louisiana. So, it applies everywhere, but New Orleans takes that and Louisiana take that to a whole nother level.
Okay. Well, see, and Marie did you go to school down there? You somebody who went to school to that? You have relatives there, but
yeah, I have family in New Orleans, and my mother was from Lafayette, which is 2 hours away. But I do have family, and everyone in my family, but me, went to Xavier University of Louisiana. But I lived there for seven years before I moved to Arizona.
and what about the Catholic Church? I mean, you said you did reach into that. Marie does a lot of research in that. She has a connection. What about that lady that you have a connection with down there?
Right, Dr. Emily Loomis. She is a retired archivist for the city of, for the Archdiocese of New Orleans, but she has her own company now, which deals with helping entities prepare for disasters as it comes to records and preservation of those records. I will look up her email address and put her name in the chat. But there is a new archivist, but if you're just looking to get a lay of the land, she is the former archivist for Baton Rouge for the diocese there, and then she was the archivist for the Archdiocese of New Orleans for many years, but she is retired from that.
So anything that might help you, is important that we try to get, as much help as you can. So any of those things, hopefully that what you found out, what you heard, and what we discussed, that all of this will be helpful in moving ahead. I would hope to again say one day come back and you say, "Oh, I found the cousin or I found somebody." So that's the purpose of Tactical Thursday, that we want to try to share and interact with each other so that we can help a person add to their story. That's the purpose. So I've enjoyed. I think everybody here. We're seeing people who said thank you. I mean, people that said they enjoyed it, they liked it, it was interesting. Emmy, they thought what you were saying was very interesting too. So I think
Thank
it's
you.
been very helpful. Anyone else that need to say anything else before we leave? Nope. All right then. I just said thank you so much. And Dr. Thomas, I'm so glad to see you. I was beginning to get ready to send you out a call to see if you were okay. So
Oh, yeah, you know.
I understand we get busy, so I just wanted to make sure I see Eunice on there too, so that she's back in the country for a moment. So it's just good. There it is. They should put the doctor's name in there. I remember from a presentation that Marie did for Tinjin that she was talking about the archivist, and I believe they had her come to Tinjin and talk. They will not come there, but virtually. So that was because Marie does know a lot of nuances in researching Catholic history. So that if nothing else, you can contact her because she's a member of our genealogy group, Dacia, so that way we can get back with her. So all right then, I think that is it, and I will thank everybody again for coming out. Thank you, Miss Emmy. I will see you at our
Thank you
next.
for inviting me. It was interesting. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right then. Uh, say messages saying thank you to you there.
Mhm.
And I think Allison, I'm gonna wait on you, Allison. You wanted me to wait till the end after the end. So good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay. So, all right. So now, Miss Allison, let me see. I need to turn off. I'm gonna turn off the Zoom here. I'm gonna turn off the iPad and I'm gonna go to the desktop here so I can talk with you. Let me just do that.
Hello? Oh. Oh, I thought you were gonna stop.